Hi there, it's Paddy Byrne here. I'm here. This is my third night on the trot, so this is the third part of my mini-series, which involves extending the Employee Ideas app within Microsoft Dataverse for Microsoft Teams. So let's have a look at the app, what we did last time. The first video showed you the app. We created an idea. You can see the idea that we generated there. It's got some questions to it. It's got an image and it's got a file attachment. It's also got a name and a description. In the first episode, we created a work item, a user story within Azure DevOps to include the title and the description. On the second episode, so that was last night, we added these questions as comments within, so attached to our user story within the Azure DevOps discussion area. And so tonight we're going to do the last bit. We're going to add the cover image and we're going to add these attachments. And this is where things get a wee bit complicated because you need to do things in the right order and using, again, the HTTP REST requests. So let's jump into Power Automate and just pull up the flow that we were working on last time. This is the flow here. This is the scope where we created our work items. I'm just going to categorize these next two actions, which we did last time, into a scope again, just to get them out of the way. So we did a list records and we did an apply to each. I've not touched this since last night. Let's call this add comments. And the next part we're going to do, we're going to add two more scopes just to get a feel for what we're going to do here. The first thing we're going to do is add attachments, and the second one, as we'll do these separately, is add the cover image. Cool, so that's us got the scopes of what we're going to do. So let's start off with the add attachments one. The attachments for the Employee Ideas app is stored in the not the common data service, the Dataverse for Teams environment. So there's an entity created in the solution. So we're in our Employee Ideas solution. There's an entity here called Employee ID file. So that is the list of files that we need to get. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to do a list files action, and we're going to list the files where the idea is the idea of the one that was created in our trigger. So let's just do what's happened here. For some reason I can't. There we go. We've got an action in here for some reason. Let's just create it in here, then we'll drag it up. So we're going to list records. So list records, and we will list employee ID files. And the filter query is just going to be the exact same as what we did last time, so we can copy it from there. So the comments filter query for list records was where the employee ID value equals employee ID. So we can just copy that and add it into our filter query. And that's all we'll do just now. We'll drag that into our scope there because that's what we're getting. And we'll add another action. So now that we've got the files, we're going to go through each of those files and attach them to the user story within Azure DevOps. The only problem with that is there isn't one action to add the files to Azure DevOps and associate to the item. You have to do it in two stages. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do an HTTP request to Azure DevOps to upload the file as an attachment, and then we'll do another action which adds the attachment to, no, sorry, the file to an attachment in Azure DevOps. So let's use the Azure DevOps connector. And again, there's no action here for this out of the box. You have to send an HTTP request. We're going to post it to the same place as before, the Freefall 365 environment. And the HTTP request is the method we're going to use is a post method. The relative URL is a little bit different from what we used previously. So it's the project name here, which we get, again, if you watch my previous video, you get it from the URL. / APIs, same as before, / WIT, / attachments. Now that's different because remember last time when we did an HTTP request, we specified the work item and the work item ID. So we're not doing that in this time because there isn't a method to post directly to the work item. So we're doing WIT / attachments, then the file name, let's just take that out, make sure we're getting the right one, equals name, oops, yeah, so what we'll do when that happens is that it will create this apply to each value, because we're going to loop through each of the records in here. As soon as we use a value from any of those records, the response to that action, then we will get this apply to each automatically created. So file name equals that, and API version equals 6.0. The only reason I've used 6.0 in that one as opposed to, I think it's 6.3 preview in the previous one, is that's because of what the documentation says. So the body of the request, let's have a think about what we're going to do for the body. Well, what dynamic values do we have? We don't have the file, interestingly enough. So we're kind of screwed. What do we put in for the body of that request? What we need to do, there's another action here. We need to get the file, because if we look at our, let's see if we can look at our data here. Employee ID file. Edit data. This is what you get. You get this file field, but we don't get a file field in Power Automate. So, you know, what do we add to our body? The body should contain just the file. So what can we do? Let's have a look at what other actions are available within the common data service. So we will leave that there just now and add an action because we still want to do it within this for this do while loop. So let's say common data service, and we have an action within the common data service, luckily, called get file or image content. So let's use that. And this is the first time I used this action actually. So get file and image content. What's the entity name? The entity name is employee ID. Sorry, it's files. And the field name, there's only one field on there, it's this MSFT file, which is file. So what that's going to do, it's going to look at the employee ID. We need to specify a GUID, and we can do that by using the employee ID file, the unique identifier for that record. We're going to get the field file. So that's going to say get that file, the contents of that file, for me. What advanced options have we got? Well, just leave them. And then we'll move this down because we need to get the content of the file first before we try and upload it into Azure DevOps. So what do we get out of the file? Well, let's just do a terminate. Let's oh, we can't terminate now. Let's move this terminate up to here and run a test and have a look at what we get out of this get file or image content. Like I said, this is the first time I actually used this action, so this is exactly what I did. Obviously I've used it now or I would be doing a live stream for it. So here we go, we'll run a test based on our previous tests. I didn't push that, did I? Just run a new one. Let's cancel that. Test. That's us doing the right one. Help if I could spell create, wouldn't it? Yeah, so add attachments. We list the records. That's looking good. We're applying to each. We're getting the content. So look what we get here. We get this file or image content, and that is the image represented in. I think it's JSON. It normally says JSON there, but this is the image that we get as a response. That's a binary image, sorry, that's the right name for it, Barry. So how do we get that into Azure DevOps as an attachment? Well, what you need to do first is convert it to a base 64 string. And the easiest way to do that is to use an expression. So we'll keep that the same way as it is, and for the body, we'll open up our fancy new expressions editor, which comes with the preview features in Fermi. I highly recommend you use it. And we'll say base 64, and in that middle bit, we'll add some dynamic content. We will add the file or image content, the response from our previous action. So output there, get file image content, yep, and we're getting the body of that. So we're converting that whole response into a base 64 string. Now this is the bit I really struggled with when doing this. Let's close that over. And body is base 64, let's say is. I said this is the bit I really struggled with, so let's see if it works, because you can probably tell I've got doubt in my voice here. Because I've only done this once before, before I'm streaming it live on YouTube, but I find that that's the best way of doing these videos, just get them out there. So if any problems come up, we'll figure them out. So successful, that's good. That looks good. Cool, so that's uploaded our attachment to Azure DevOps, but remember it's not associated to the work item yet. That's just floating about in the middle of nowhere. I think it's actually against the project. I'm not sure where it is. And the output we get here, we get an ID, which is the ID of the file, and we get a URL, and we can check that our file is in Azure DevOps by just browsing to the URL. So let's just open a new window, whack the URL in, and there we go, we get a Excel CSV file. Open. Yeah, there you go, there's our CSV file. So it's in Azure DevOps. The next thing we need to do is we need to associate that file to our work item. So let's add to this loop. So we're going to add action, and again it's another HTTPS request, but before we do the HTTPS request, actually I'll show you that first. Let's do DevOps and send HTTP request. It is I'm looking at the reference here, it's a patch request that we have to do. .365. The relative URL that you need to send the patch request to is that. You've got the work item ID in there. So I've seen that I've just copied that and pasted it from somewhere else. But so it's closing pin. So the project again, APIs, WIT work item. So same as we did in the previous steps on the previous streams. If we add some dynamic content in there, ID. Scroll down. Yeah, that's as good. And for the body, again, I took this out of the documentation, so I'm pasting it from there. We have to tell it what to do, so it's not just it isn't just simple tell this file to go there. So you need to specify op and you get add. If you go to the Azure DevOps documentation here, it's got a list of what all these properties in the REST request mean and what values are accepted. So we're going to say the op, which is the operation, we're going to add it. The path relations, because we're relating it to that item. The value, and there's two properties within value, is rel, which is the type of relationship. So there's related, I think there's another ones to do with parent, child. The one that we want to do, because we're attaching it as a file, we want it to say attached file. The URL, we don't know that yet, although we'll try and put that in. You expect to get that from your send HTTP request or get files. Oh, sorry, it'll be the send HTTP request. So let's have a look what dynamic values are available to us, and you'll find that there isn't. There's just a body value available to us. That's not going to work because the body value contains more properties than just the URL. You need that URL field. So how do we get it? The attributes also, we can put a comment on it as well, which says attachment. So we need to find what value we have to put in this URL field. And the way to get that is that we are going to parse the output of this. So we parse the JSON this one spits out. And so to do that is parse JSON. The content is going to be the body of our HTTP request to Azure DevOps. And then we've got the schema. Now this is this is one of my favorite tools because you don't actually need any code or to understand JSON to use it. So the schema here, I don't know how to write that, but I can generate it from a sample. And the sample we get is the test that we ran previously. So let's go, just open another tab so I don't need to save the flow. Go back to solutions. Oh yeah, I need extended. This is the workflow I'm currently working on. And this is the test that we ran a few minutes ago. So it's not list records, it is this. So that output there, that is our sample that we can use. And if we put that into, there's a sample, click done, it generates the schema for us. Now that we have the schema, we can use that to populate the URL. Again, that's one of the handiest tools I've found in Power Automate. URL. So I'm just looking closely at the screen to make sure that I've got my quotes and everything in the right place. And so if I run this right now, I'll get an error. And the error will return something along the lines of that this endpoint only accepts requests of type JSON-patch-JSON. And I spent ages googling about for it. I finally found out what I was missing, and it was a header in here. And it's because I need to specify the content type as application/JSON-patch plus JSON. So if you try and run it without putting that header in, you will get an error. So let's run that and see if it works. I'm crossing my fingers secretly here because I have only run this one other time, and it looks like it's worked. So we had attachments and we've added them to Azure DevOps. And if we go into work items here, let's refresh that page. This is me in Azure DevOps. This is the last one that we created. It's got 2 comments like we did yesterday, and it has an attachment, and I can download that attachment. So that's the first part of today's stream done. We can upload files to the employee ideas app, any type of files as far as I know, and so we'll loop through them. We've only got one in this case. They will be added as attachments under the attachment tabs in Azure DevOps. Now we want to get the cover image, and we do that in much the same way because we don't want to lose any information when we've got this employee ID. Somebody might put a really important image here. I've got a picture of a cowboy hat, which isn't that important unless you're coming to my webinar tomorrow, which is all about Power Platform governance. Yeah, so we will add the cover image. Again, you do it in much the same way. You need to get the image content using an action, the Common Data Service action, upload it as an attachment, and then download it. The only reason I want to show you the cover image, you don't need to look through either because there is only one cover image. The only reason I want to show you is just because there's something that worked almost too well for me when I did this. Let's get the content of the image. What's the entity name again? I can't remember. It was the employee ideas entity, so it's the core entity for that one. Let me just double check that is correct. Employee idea solution. We have employee idea. Just checking that this image is associated to the employee idea entity. And it is. It's this column that we want to get here. So the ID, we know our ID, we can add that dynamically. From our trigger. And the field name is cover image. A great action that is, just works so simply. Next step is exact same as before. We're uploading that image to Azure DevOps using an HTTP request, and we can just copy the exact same values that we did previously. And the body, remember we used an expression for that, so we said, oh, that's not what is it? Sorry, we used an expression, A64, and we put in the whole response to the file / image content. Oops. Yeah. Oh, we need to change this to yes, because the body is base64 and not JSON. Then we'll add another action. Remember, we have to parse that JSON once we get it. Use the body. The schema we should be able to. Famous last words. Copy from there, so we don't need to generate it again because we're expecting the same schema back, I think. And then we're going to link it, so sends the HTTP request, which again we select our organization, we use a patch, the relative URL is the same, put the ID in. You can tell it's been a long day, it's actually been a long week. And it's far from over. So that's our URL. We say put our content type header again, because we don't want to forget that. As soon as you don't put that header in, you will get an error saying that that endpoint only accepts requests of that type there. And the body, so we're copying it to, I'm just going to copy this over from another screen. sure we've got the correct URL in there. Now, what I wanted to show you was I've put, but on a previous, when we're doing attachments, I could put the file name, which we knew what it was because it was a file. So in the Employee Ideas app, we had the full file name plus extension. In the cover image, I could not find a way to get the file name, because remember, an image can be different types. It can be a JPEG, it can be a PNG, it can be a TIFF, or any sort of image in there. And so I was worried, how do I get that file name? I could not find a way to get it. As there's only one cover image, I just put the name as cover image. And I just thought, again, this is by chance, I just thought I'd try it as a PNG, .png, to see whether it would work. And that actually works for any image that uploads. So even if I upload a JPEG to my employee idea, if I add it to Azure DevOps and say that it's a .png, then when I go to download it from Azure DevOps, it still works, even if it's a JPEG, which I was so surprised about. I don't know whether it's the browser or something that DevOps does, something in the Dataverse that the Employee Ideas app does. Maybe it converts things over. I don't know, but magically it works even if you put up a JPEG. So I think that's us. Let's just take away that terminate because we don't need it anymore. I've got a thing about leaving terminates in. I feel a bit wrong just leaving them off. And let's run that and see if that works. Oh, got a failure. So what's it failed on? Let's have a look. So I'm quite new to live streaming and doing these live streams. This is the third one I've done, 3 nights in a row, and every time something's went wrong. So the method is get. It's a patch that I need. So yeah, three nights in a row. Last night as an error because I put my quotation marks in the wrong place. Then the first night, what did I do again? Yeah, we are posting. I think let me just double check. Yeah, we're posting. Try it now. Yeah, I couldn't get the app to work last night either within Teams. If you joined me for that, I could not get the app to launch within Teams. And this evening, first thing I do is forget to put my audio on, and second thing I do is I post the wrong request. But we're all human. Did I start it from a previous request? I can't remember. It doesn't normally take that long. Let's run from that failed test again. Cool. Flow ran successfully. And if I'm looking at Azure DevOps, let's see. So this is the latest one, 2230. Yep, that's long. God, I'd be on half an hour. So there's our comments, attachments. We've got our cover image, PNG, which we can view, and we have our file. So that's it. So that was a nice wee mini-series. Like I said, I'm trying something new out. They're doing these live streams really because I'm trying to get more confident in live streaming. I think live streaming is going to be a skill of not the future, the present. I think in this world we live in, live streaming is going to be key to success, and it's a good skill to have. So I'm trying to do that, focus on presentation skills and do some live streaming. If you don't like them, please let me know, because I'm still going to do the more tutorial based videos, the short videos, but this is just for me. Last thing at night, I've done something that I can share. Let's just share away. Hit stream, and off we pop. So that's all for me.